Hey, Beardiest, I've got to say, so far I've drinking half a bottle of wine, and I know what that makes me sound like, but that's just enough to get the old beak wet and get things rowdy around here. I know you've been hitting it pretty hard as well. Um, so far in these episodes, you've taken on sort of a professorial role. You've been the scholar in the armchair pontificating very objectively and astutely on some of the aspects of Warhammer 40K. But right now, I know you're getting worked up there with your bottle of Manischewitz. I want you to throw that aside, throw it down your gullet. I want you to rip the suede patches off your tweed jacket and just tell the people what they want to hear. Why should they be interested in Warhammer 40K? What is so great about Warhammer 40K? What is so appealing about something with a mouthful of a name like Warhammer 40,000?
What do you want to know, bitch?
Oh boy.
I'm an open book.
What?
I'm an open book.
You're an open book.
Just ask me a goddamn
start
question.
ripping pages out of the book and eating them like a mad dog. All right? And spitting knowledge at us. Spitting chewed up, regurgitated knowledge like a fucking angry. If Rowdy Roddy Piper were a barn swallow, I want you, like a golden finch, I want you to just regurgitate knowledge into our beaks.
That's what they asked of Bob Dwyer, too. Look what happened to him.
Look what happened. You know, I'm just going to put a bookmark on that. I don't want you avoiding these questions, Matt. Let's hear it.
All right.
What's so great about Warhammer 40K?
What's not to love about it, Dean?
I don't know
All right.
about it.
Maybe
I know
you
nothing.
knew about it.
I'm a drunk Italian.
All right. Well, I'm a drunk Jew. So that makes us two peas in a pod.
I get.
Anyway.
Where are your family from? Sicily?
No, Israel.
Well, it's the same.
So, I mean, it borders the Mediterranean.
It's near the Mediterranean.
It borders the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
You get a lot of sunshine.
Oh, the kibitz. You can make some nice kosher sausage. Anyway, we're getting off topic, Matt. Beardiest. Let's get back. Okay.
I hear you.
So, I walk into a comic shop. I see a lot of things around me. I see the Wolverines. I see the Batmen. I see Magic the Gathering. I see Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of books. Very thick, voluminous tomes. Tombs? Yeah, it's a tome that'll put you in a tomb. Let's leave it as that. Labeled Advanced Dungeon, or what's Dungeons and Dragons now, like version 8.0 something.
It ain't 2.5.
A box or a book or a baggie of action figures labeled Warhammer 40K or 40,000. And it looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger got slammed into Sylvester Stallone and they jacked him full of roids and creatine and put some sort of crazy plastic armor all over him, and he's shooting a big gun.
What's not to love about it?
Some sort of... I don't want you to overthink it.
Well, personally, the appeal of it is the grim darkness of it, the grimness of it. I'm not a fan of, a linear story in which the hero is obviously going to win right from the get-go, just because he's the hero. Warhammer, fantasy, 40K, whatever the fuck, is replete with examples of just badasses going to town, and maybe they'll go down swinging. They might not make it out, but they're going to go down swinging. Plus, there's a lot of history in it. The Imperial Guard is essentially modern-day Russia, and even a little bit of World War II Russia in there. They have the commissars who would stand behind the troops and Not one Stalin's decree, not one step back. If a conscript took a step back, blammo, he gets shot in the face. Next person up. What comes to mind is, and you and I had discussed this. There was the Moscow theater debacle in Russia, and then in 2002, and 2 years later, there was the Beslin school debacle in Russia. And reading that
now officially in the media, were they called debacles? Is that the?
I think they were probably termed massacres.
Yeah.
But I mean, anybody who's reading that can't. I mean, at least in a Western. I mean, I don't know how Russians think. I don't know if they were reading it. They have a different viewpoint of it. But anybody in a liberalized America reading that would just be utterly appalled with what happened and the final outcome.
So you get a nutshell for us. What happened in these?
Well, the Moscow theater,
so conveniently called them. Maybe it was
debacle.
The Russian news media.
Well, the Moscow theater debacle, as I understand it, occurred in 2002, in which I think it was,
we don't need to know specifics.
So
took over a theater, right? That much I remember. Standoff.
There were 30 terrorists and about 130 theater goers, just enjoying a nice evening at the theater. The police get called. There's a standoff. The theater's at a very nasty choke point. In order for the Russian SWAT team to storm it, they'd have to go upstairs. There's only one avenue in. So I think they killed two hostages, two female hostages. The terrorists did when the Russians wouldn't give in to their demands. So eventually the Russians say, "All right, we've had enough. We're done," and they release even to this day, over 10 years later, they don't know what they released into it, but it was some sort of gas agent. Based on toxicity reports after the fact, they're saying it's some sort of opiate. Gassed the shit out of this theater, and everybody died in it. All the terrorists and all the hostages.
So 100 hostages and roughly 30 terrorists?
Yeah. It was about a 3-to-1 ratio.
Instead of dealing with their problem, because people say what they want, I think we take for granted that the U.S. is pretty good at playing the slaps game with hostage takers. We're good at staring them down in the old Mexican standoff and waiting for them to flinch and then slapping them over the top of the hand. But so you're saying that's not the Russian mindset. They just flooded the entire theater with a deadly toxin and went in and just sorted out the bodies.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they have a mindset of security first, citizenry second.
And that somehow makes you want to play Warhammer 40K? What are you trying to
Not so much play it.
Sick sadist?
I might be. Maybe it's a little bit of a breath of fresh air instead of having these.
That we all have that little bit of sadist in us, and maybe it's healthier that we exercise these grim, dark, as you put it, desires on a tabletop rather than in a theater full of 130 people, as the Russian government does.
I don't think it's so much the everybody has a little bit of sadist in them, but it's I don't want to say refreshing, but it's a little bit of a change of pace. A lot of these sci-fi settings, take
universe, because
right.
There's a lot of loose talk about Russia here.
Yeah, I mean, we should probably just
the Russian atrocities.
We should probably just sideline Russia, otherwise we're going to get Putin involved, and he's going to be sending a hit squad after us. So
no.
Oh yeah, you don't fuck with Putin.
Don't tell me you're scared of that clown.
I mean, if he starts subscribing to Beardius Gaming, on YouTube.
If we see some Cyrillic lettering in the comments section, we'll start to worry. But until then, I think you're okay.
Right.
But we just want to make clear that you're not advocating committing atrocities on an unarmed civilian population. You just find that sort of fantasy appealing for literary merit.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see it too often. I mean, in terms of fictional sci-fi settings, let's bring up the big ones. You have Star Wars.
Sure. Star Trek.
You have Star Trek. You have even Mass Effect. And a lot of these, it always espouses. But even then, I think Warhammer 40K goes a little bit, too far in certain things.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but doesn't it go too far with everything?
That might be the very point of it. I mean, everything is everything about Warhammer 40K it's larger than life. I mean, and it's like all these, it's, they have a lot of colorings and unit schemes. Like they have the Space Marines who paint their armor, according to their chapter banner. Mm-hmm. So you could have, these 8-foot tall giants, probably weigh 350, 400 pounds without the armor, charging into battle with yellow armor, which obviously even, now in the, second millennia, obviously wouldn't be a very good
armor.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of bright yellow, bright green, bright red, tactical armor.
I think the French still use a lot of khaki. Anyway.
I think that might just be in the desert regions. I don't know.
I believe I'm thinking of the Foreign Legion. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, they still have their khaki,
but even
khaki dress uniforms.
Far cry from lemon yellow.
Right. And, and it's just, and I mean, even like the, but it's different.
So, Professor, you've been dancing around this question long enough. What? I'm gonna slam my shoe on the table like Khrushchev. What is so appealing about Warhammer 40K?
Well, that's an excellent question.
I know. And why don't you try answering it with an excellent answer?
I'm trying to, you goddamn bitch.
Oh, don't start with that, you dirty rat.
Really, it's about...
Now, answer the question.
Maybe it's... I really can't answer it. Then I'll be straight up with you. I really can't.
A handful of things that you love about it. What is it?
And the thing is, it's not any one thing or even any two things or even any three things. It's a composite. It seems like it takes a lot of the sci-fi settings that we've all, at least I have, at least since being born in the mid '80s, have grown up with Aliens, Predator, Star Wars, Star Trek. All these settings, and it seems to bring them together into a melting pot of uniqueness. I mean, nothing. If you take one aspect of 40K, you can find a predecessor to it.
Well, name me five cool aspects. You're talking like a politician, Matt. I gotta nail you down. I gotta drag you out into the weeds.
Commissars.
Commissars? I didn't even know they had commissars.
Oh, yeah. Commissars. Human genetic experiments.
To clarify, commissars are a unit on the battlefield designed to prevent sedition, just to shoot their own troops in the back, essentially. Or in the front if they're running away, right?
Right. They would be shooting them in the front. We actually have 20 seconds left. And I'll see if I...
Then I think we have just enough time in the next episode for you to get the top 4 things remaining off your list. And we're going to have plenty of time to talk about motherfucking Space Marines. So let's get to it.